has everybody who's here this afternoon, I think everybody who's here this afternoon has done the questionnaire and the feedback. Am I correct? Am I correct? Okay, and I greatly, 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 greatly appreciate it because it really, it's really helping me to where am I going next kind of thing. And I will tell you that this has been such a positive experience for me with each of you that I'm going to do another course, and it's going to be starting in the end of September. I want opinions from you. One of the things that I was thinking of is that because of school being in session starting yesterday or something, and for others in September, I was thinking, what would it be like to do one afternoon, say a Wednesday afternoon, and then a Sunday afternoon? Not that you guys are going to be doing that, but you know, as teachers, and what do you think of that idea? So what I'm going to want you to do is kind of give me feedback, because I think taking 2 afternoons after school might be hard for people. How many people like the idea of Sunday, Wednesday? We 1, 2. Okay, that's the other people would rather like a Monday, Wednesday. You think that that teachers would feel better about that instead of giving up their weekends? Okay, okay. Well, I will put it out to the universe that way, Monday, Wednesday, because I can absolutely do that. And it's going to be another 8-week course, and I am not sure how to, you know, ask people to pay for it and how much, but I'm going to work on that, and I'll make a flyer and I'll send it to you. And if you guys can help me by telling other people, I would appreciate it. Okay. This is what I think we're going to do today. You are going to, after this class today, this evening, Sarah is going to be sending each of you a certificate of participation. And I don't know if that'll be helpful to you at your schools or not, but I hope it will. My whole idea of what we are going to do today is really, really, really working on lesson planning. How do we operationalize this? And this is not going to be just me saying my ideas, but really working as a group. And so, and then if you have time at the end, I want to do a question and answer, you know, forum with any questions. Like Joanne came on this today and said, how am I going to teach this to these kids? So let's brainstorm together. Let's get your questions answers. One of the things I was trying to say to myself is, you know, how do you think about this, Sasha? So I made a step card on how do I lesson plan. And this isn't the only thing that could be on there. People could say, well, wait, you didn't think about this, Sasha, or what about that? Or what about this? So these are my ideas of what I do. And then I'm going to show you exactly each step. And then what I'm going to ask in the end is for you to go through those steps in a small group or in a whole group, whichever way we decide to do it, and really do this so that it's practical and usable in school as soon as you get there. Okay? So my first thing whenever I'm working with students is to say, where are my students' skills? What do they need? So that's really an evaluation. We're going to talk about formal and informal and records, but the first thing is you have to know where they are. The second thing is to say, well, what are the expectations that I have for my grade level, but what are the expectations that my school has, that my district has, that my state has, that, you know, my province in Canada has? You know, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? And then the next thing really is, and so how do my kids match up to that, right? And where are they in all of these areas? And I can have a global idea of my student is at such and such grade level, but I want to know, what is it in the scope and sequence? Do they know their Do they know, the P's and B's and T's and D's? Or do they know the vowels, or do they know the different patterns? So we have not only a global view of where they are, but very particularly where they are efficient, confused, and don't know. Both at my grade level, but I can't remember who said this, it's a long time ago. But if you look at any class, you have a mythical norm of where your kids are, but you have some kids who are above that and have skills beyond that. And you have some kids that are below that, and you have the whole range. So it's really looking at what's the range in my classroom as well as individual skills. Then what are your goals for your students? And goals are dictated by what those children know and don't know and confuse, and those scope and sequence and those standards. And we got to somehow mix those ideas together. And looking at, oh, what's in my whole class? Do I have a group of kids who have no knowledge of what the consonants and vowels are? Or do I have a group of students that know what the consonants are, but not the vowels? Do I have a group that know both of those, but they don't know any spelling patterns? So I'm trying to have some grouping, because that tells me, oh, what skills can I work with the whole class with? What can I do small groups? And what do I have to do individually? And that's, I remember, oh, this is so long ago, but when before I had the Kelter Center in Los Angeles, I worked in the public schools, in middle schools. So it was 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And every kid who had any kind of problem, I got them. There was no continuity of why I got them or anything. They just weren't up to snuff in their class. So I had to evaluate those kids. I had to group them. And I had every 45 minutes, I had another group of 12 come through. So I had close to 60 kids every day. And what I did is I said, oh, I'm going to take my 45 minutes on, at that time, I did have an instructional aide, and I really taught her how to do everything that I could do. And I made like 3 different activities that could go on simultaneously. So I was working with a group, she was working with a group, and I had a group being independent, and they'd switch every 15 minutes. So I saw every student every day in a small group setting, but they moved around, and I could keep them on task with that. So that's what I'm saying of, how can I work whole group? Can I work small groups? Can I work individually? I think you have to be a miracle worker to be a teacher. What are my resources? And we're going to look at how I've organized that. But we're also going to say, when we work in groups, each of you, for each of these different parts of lesson planning, I'm going to ask you to answer the same questions, so that perhaps we can collaborate together. We can help each other. We can support each other in moving into the school year and through the school year. A big question right now is, am I teaching in person? Am I teaching online? Another important question for lesson planning is, how long do I have each day for literacy? And how am I going to allocate my time? That's how we have to do lesson plans. We can't, at least that's what my mind says. Are there, let me see something here. I think that I don't have more than 7. No, I don't. Does anybody have anything to add to that step card of 7 things? It was evaluation, it's what's the state standards, it's, how do I group my kids? What resources do I have? Do you think I'm missing anything? Lisa?
I was thinking maybe a sequence or scope of, like a sequence of activities or a sequence of.
That's in resources. That's in resources.
That
We're
would that be
gonna look at that. Absolutely, absolutely. And in the course of the 8 weeks, I've sent you some handouts. I'm going to revisit some of them with you, because, and I'll show you how I kind of frame my thinking, so that we can help with that sequence. Okay, so let's go on. Stop me at any point if you agree, disagree, or want to change things. So in evaluation, in my mind, there's an informal evaluation, but also many times, if you go into the files and records of the students in your classroom at school, there's past individual education plans. There might be some testing that was done by a neuropsychologist or a psychologist from the district, outside the district. And sometimes teachers don't say, oh, I don't want to know what my kids, what was happened before. And my thing is, you want to know everything you can get on these kids. You want to be able to say, oh, this is the things that have been difficult before, and this is what I can find out about this child. So I can start to have, again, an individual profile, but a grouping profile of my students. But then we talked about way back in week 1 or 2, we said, well, how can we also do some informal assessment for our students? So in your handouts on page 23, one of the things that I asked, and you can do this whole group, is you can, oh, I have a really good suggestion for this. You can ask the kids, and make sure you don't have the alphabet written on the wall in your room. That would be giving them cheating. Ask them to write the alphabet. And you can go around, and one of the things that I've done before in classes is I'll have like a notebook where I have all of my students' names, and as I walk around, I can make observations, and then I can write those observations down as they're writing the alphabet. Things that I look for when kids are writing the alphabet, and again, this is all written in my book that you have, is first of all, do they start and write the letter A, and then they have to stop and go back, oh, what comes next? A, B, and then they write the B, and then they go back to the beginning, A, B, oh, C is the next. Or did they go A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Do they do lowercase and uppercase in the same alphabet that you asked them to write? How close is their face to the paper? That can tell you they may need glasses on their face, or that they're not getting really good information from their fingers. So they're down here peering at it so they can see how they're forming the letters. Are they forming the letters in the right sequence? Those are the kinds of things that you want to do. Like, are they starting C at the bottom and going up like that? Or are they starting D down, around, and then up in a stick? So how are they doing it? Is it efficient or inefficient? Zora, you had a question?
I did. So I was working with a student who, when they were going through the alphabet, they definitely were struggling as they got to the final third of the alphabet, they were really struggling and kept repeating. And then even with the, W, X, Y, and Z, the and became
a big thing, right? Yes.
But so, I mean, clearly the child is struggling with just the alphabet and the order and so on. But I feel like, what else should I be realizing from that process aside from?
Okay, so I think of learning like a jar. Okay, in my mind, I'm always thinking of like a Navajo olla. Okay, and it's filled with water. And if just forming the letters takes a lot of energy, in other words, a lot of water in the jar, then you have very little energy for phonemic awareness, for sound symbol, for reading words, for fluency. But if it takes a little bit of energy, then you have lots of mental energy to do other things. So my question always is, how much mental energy is this processing taking? And when it's with handwriting, that takes a lot of energy. And if So the program that I use to teach students is Handwriting Without Tears. And I like it best. And the reason I like it is it says, here's all the shapes that go into letters. Here's the sequence of how you write them. Here's the relative size of the letters. And here's a way to talk to yourself about the letters.
So she
Those are
wasn't,
all the elements we need.
so the handwriting itself, she wasn't struggling with. It was actually
The
knowing
letter, the
sequence
sequence.
and just which letters, and then that end piece, just bringing it all
Okay.
together.
So that's a really good differentiation. Okay.
Can I say a couple things about that?
Yeah, good.
I don't, what's the name of the woman who does Ebley? Have you heard of Ebley? So it's this evidence-based language something, and so she started incorporating Peterson prompts in with her instruction, and they have this they had this study that said that I think by the time kindergartners, are however long they've been in kindergarten, they should be able to write the alphabet in 40 seconds, or there's some time period where it should be written. so she and this woman now she has a, write the alphabet once, and then she teaches them with the Peterson prompts, but it could be Writing Without Tears prompts. So I do that now with my students in the beginning. I have them, I'll say, well, A is, I'll give them the prompt for A, and then I'll just do B is, tall down, I actually don't remember what they are, towel down, hop around or something. And so we just, we do that every day in the beginning as one of my warm-ups. And yeah, Lisa's putting it in the chat there. Ebony reads.
That's exactly what we want to do today is, oh, this works. This is how I implement it. That's wonderful. Okay. You had another thing?
Just to say that, that students should be able to write it. I have them write the alphabet, then I have them write a sentence, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, to see how they put those letters in actual words as well. And they're copying it. So it's not like they have to remember how to spell it, but.
Yes. So what are the demands is what you're saying. So am I just doing one letter at a time and writing the letters? If I have to copy a word, and then I also want to look at what is their handwriting when they have to do a sentence? And then I want to look at their handwriting when they're doing an essay. And because the demands become greater, think of that thinking pot, the demands become greater. You're going to see for some students that their handwriting becomes less and less efficient as the demands go up. Okay.
Can I just add something, Sasha, to that? Yeah, with Nora, the way that she does the Ebley for the testing, I know during COVID time, she has 10-week lessons for spelling that she teaches to kids that you can go on for free on her website. What she used to do is at the first class, I think, or the second class, is she would put a timer on for a minute, and she'd ask the students to get a mini whiteboard, like one that they would have available. And within that minute, they had to write the alphabet as many times as they could. And then after a few weeks of her instruction, and like Deb said, she's teaching you how to write these letters. Especially, she was a lot more explicit with the kindergarten group than she was with the grade 1 and grade 2s. Mm-hmm. After that, she would get you to test again, and it'd just be a timer for a minute, and you have to see. And if you're finished up to Z, you continue writing to see how many times you can write it.
Excellent. So will you put that in the chat for today, please, Lisa? Thank you. One of the people who I studied with many, many years ago was a developmental pediatrician. His name was Mel Levine, and we've talked about him during this class. And one of the things that he said, which has stuck with me for a long time, is what is it that you're trying to teach? Then focus on that and teach it. And create different exercises. So what Lisa was saying about, and Deb was saying about every day, you don't have to do more than a minute, And that's where our lesson planning comes in, and saying, how much time do I have to do this stuff? And what is it that I want to focus on? So We also talked about letter sound relationships, where I want to know what consonants and vowels my students know in isolation. And I gave you the page numbers for that. And you can do this with a whole class. And the way you do it with the whole class is you don't have them reading it to you, you have them spelling it for you. So you might go and you ask all of your students, and you have to say, how much do I do with each group today? I might not do all of it. You have that luxury of seeing them more than once a week. I'm going to say the sound, and I'm going to have them write it down. And you go through all of the consonants that we've worked with here, P, B, N, T, D, N, K, G, and you say the sound, and you say it very, very precisely without making on it. And then you'll be able to see which of your kids, when they hear it, do they know the sound that goes with it. Same thing for your vowels. Okay? And that will give you a good idea of what consonants and what vowels they do and don't know. And then it'll show you, oh, like I'm going to show you results of tests of a student with the name blacked out today. And I tested him last week. He's finished 2nd grade. We knew all of his consonants, but he said ta, pa, ka, ga the whole way through. So I know that I don't really have to spend lots and lots of time with him on my consonants, but I have to come roaring to a halt when I get to the vowels, because he knew some, but not all of his single vowels. He didn't know vowel plus E, he didn't know R control, he didn't know digraphs and diphthongs. So I know exactly where I have to concentrate. So that is something that helps me when I do a letter sound relationship. What do they know? What do they confuse? What do they not know? I will tell you, and I went through, and almost everybody says, yes, I want to test my kids with the test of written spelling. Yay. It came today. And so what I plan to do with everyone is to, this would really be good. If you can let me know, when do you start with your kids? And then what I will do is I will send you the list that you are going to dictate to your students. I'm going to ask your help to score it, to just say how many right, how many wrong for each kid. And then what I hope to do is we should have a session where we start to look at, for each of you, what are the patterns? In other words, when I test in spelling, it tells me, A, do they know the letters and the sounds? Do they know the consonants? Do they know the vowels? B, it tells me if they're having phonemic awareness problems, because they'll make very specific types of mistakes. They'll leave out sounds, they'll add in sounds, they'll substitute sounds, they'll shift it around. So we want to look at what kinds of mistakes are they making and at what level. Because some of my students, they make mistakes at the simple one syllable level. Some do it at the complex. Some do it at the multi-syllable. I need to know that, because what I do in teaching then changes because of where their skills are. So we will have that. And then also in evaluation, Kilpatrick's test is going to give you guys a lot of good information about their phonemic awareness. Can they segment? Can they blend? Can they substitute? Can they shift? Can they, that's it, Sasha. Okay, so you can rely on that. And or you can also say, is there anyone at my district who can do a CTALK? You know, can I get some help from some other people to do some of these tests? Okay. And how many of you are labeled special ed teachers? Will you raise your hand if you're a special ed teacher? Talk to your special ed teacher. They can help you a lot, okay? Okay, so now in the handouts, and I hope you guys got these, one of the things that I did is I gave you a, let's see, Sasha, which one is it? An educational evaluation. So it kind of, we sent it yesterday and again today. It kind of looks like this. It says educational evaluation. Can you guys see that? And I don't know if you have that. But so what I'm going to just kind of talk you through it and tell you what I glean when or what I look for when I'm doing results of tests. So the first thing that I do is I do a comprehensive test of phonological processing. And with this student, what I do is I look at his individual scores, and I also look at the composite scores, because sometimes if you have one, the composite is 2 or 3 tests add together and look for the average. Most schools look at composite scores only, and I look at the individual scores also, because I want to know, is this composite score made up of really one strong score and one really weak score? Because as a teacher, it tells me, oh my gosh, you know, I've got to work on this, but not that. So with this particular student, an interesting thing, he had elision is where you have to do the analysis kind of skills that Kilpatrick talks about. I say a word and I say leave out a sound. Now, we've got that in Kilpatrick's book, right? You guys own that. You could have your kids do this that way. Or you could, Laura, you can just make up a list, okay? So say milk without the ul. Say slap without the p or ul. So with this particular student, what I see is when he had to do a lot of different things simultaneously, hear the word, pull it apart, know what sounds were there, locate and isolate that one sound, delete it, and then blend it back together. He scored on the first grade 7th month level. When he only had to do one thing, which was blending, he was on the 2nd grade 7th month. So what that says to me is, oh, if they're on the analysis level using Kilpatrick's term, that's where I need to be with him. I might breeze through and do segmenting, blending, and see how he does on it, but I'm going to go up to the analysis level really quickly. Is this making sense, guys? Is it helping? I also realized that on this, there's a memory for digits, and there's also non-word repetition. So if I say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, he can give me back 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And he scored on the 4th grade level on that. That's really strong. But when I asked him to repeat a word from a very small word to a larger word, he was on the kindergarten level. So that tells me 2 things. That tells me, 1, he's having a lot of issues with words, and he's feeling bad about not being able to deal with words. That's one thing that it tells me. The second thing is I'm going to have to start really small with him. I'm going to have to do a 2-sound word and see how efficient he is, and then 3 sounds, and then 4 sounds. And I'm going to have to be very careful and patient, because I might be at the 2-sound level or 3-sound level for quite a long time. So in his composite scores, he was at like 39th percentile, 37th, 37th. What that says is he would never get any special ed services, but he's not really efficient, is he? So I'm going to absolutely part of my lesson is going to be phonemic with awareness with him every day. And I'm going to have to watch how fast or slow I can go. Okay. The next thing I did is I asked him to do those letters for me. And as I said, he knew all of his consonants, but almost none of his vowels. So what that says to me is I'm going to teach him about how he uses his mouth and voiced and unvoiced, but I'll be able to go a pace at that. But when we get to the vowels, I think he's going to have a much more challenging time. And I'm going to go slower with that. And I'm going to be very meticulous. And I remember last year with a kindergartner, first grader, I spent a week on I, and I spent another week on I, and I spent a third week. So it took me weeks to do those single vowels, but by golly, she got it. And then, the hard thing, and I know that you guys have this, the hard thing is you have the pressure of you're supposed to get something done on a timeline, right? And that can be difficult because your kids really don't learn on a timeline that's dictated by anybody else but themselves. When I looked at if I said a story to him, could he answer it? Absolutely age appropriate. When I looked at his reading, so oral language comprehension, 55th percentile. Word reading, 9th. So what that says to me is it says, I really need to focus on teaching him how to read the individual words. I still have to have him doing reading comprehension and language and many of other things, but this is a child that I need to teach to break the code. How long does it take our kids to read those words? How efficient are they? Because that directly tells me, what fluency work do I have to do? So it would be really, really interesting. See in your class, what's the range that you have for reading individual letters or words, pending you might not have kids who read words. And then kind of compare, instead of saying some mythical, norm that they should be at, where are your kids right now? And then you work to set goals where they are, and then increasing in small increments. Any questions from this kind of testing or evaluation or comments? So everybody's state or province standards are different, but considering them and knowing them is really important. And I'm sure you all do already. But what I do, I have the luxury of saying, oh, wait, where is this child and what is just the sequence based on research? So I'm going to look at that with you. And it's some of what we've done before. So this is my conception of literacy. And there's so many good models. There's the rope, there's Scarborough's rope. There's the simple view of reading. And this is over time kind of what I've come up with myself in detail. So I have, and you've seen this once before, we did this in the first week or so, where what are the elements that I need in breaking the code? So in breaking the code, that means reading and spelling individual words. I need to know the letters and the sounds. I need to have phonemic awareness. I have to have those patterns of spelling. I have to have syllables. I have to have morphology and etymology. That's what we need to do with kids. But you're in a class and you have to not only remediate where they might not know something, but you also have to have a well-rounded approach. So what are you going to be doing with vocabulary? And what are you going to be doing with parts of speech and reading comprehension and writing? So in your lesson plan and your weekly lesson plan, you got to have all of this, don't you? You're doing it all. You're being wizards. Okay. The other person that I really like, and we've really worked off of this the whole time that we've worked together for these 8 weeks. This is structured literacy. And this is how I believe, you know, my lesson plans and my teaching is based. You have to have a sequence of literacy skills. And that's what we've been working on for 8 weeks. And you have to have reviewing, and we're going to talk about that. And you now have dialogues for how you talk with your kids. And you have examples and non-examples to teach from. And you know some decodable texts. And you know how to give feedback. Look at all those things that you've learned in 8 weeks. Okay? And when you're lesson planning, you want to say, how am I using all this? One of the things that we didn't talk about a whole lot, but I've given you 2 handouts, and one of them I gave you today, is Bloom's Revised Taxonomy. And I'm kind of like, wow, this is really good stuff. And I'm not going to be able to go in depth with you on this, but you have the handouts that help you to know how to use this, okay? So when you first are learning something, you are at the understanding level. That's when you're teaching your kids how they do the consonants and vowels, or you're teaching the kids the syllable types. Then you want to be sure that they can say that in their own language also. They have to be able to feed it back. And then they have to use it with things. Again, we've done this, haven't we, in class, and we've talked about games. And we want to analyze. Built into how we teach the consonants and vowels is there's patterns here. What's the same about the ED at the end of this word? What's different? How do we know why it's happening? How could you apply that to the plurals? So it's looking at an analysis and a level of learning. So I haven't taught you Bloom's taxonomy, but inherent in everything that we've done, you've been doing it. Okay? Okay. And because of some of the handouts, you're going to be able to do this with your kids, because I literally went crazy at one point and said, how can I do this with the phonology? And how can I do this with, you know, this and this and this? So those are handouts that I have given you and will continue to. So one of the handouts that I gave you is, it looks like a list of skills, and it goes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And what we're going to work on once we go through these ideas is, so where am I going to, how am I going to have them practice handwriting? As Deb said, and Lisa said, for 5 minutes every day. I'm going to put that in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to practice handwriting. And then I'm going to use either my own made up, or I'm sure you guys have resources in phonemic awareness. My go-to in the last year has been David Kilpatrick's stuff. So in every lesson, I have to spend 10 minutes doing phonemic awareness. And I might do different things each day, but I'm going to do phonemic awareness every day. And then what am I teaching as far as the consonants or the vowels or the spelling patterns? And how can I get my kids to write words and phrases and sentences with the letters that I've taught and the spelling patterns that I've taught? And how can I have them read connected text, decodable? And how can I do a fluency exercise? And what do I also have to do to review? So when I'm thinking of my lesson plan, this is what is going on in my head. Any questions or comments about that? Okay.
Just that this was helpful. So thank you.
Good, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I stay up at night wondering if this is helpful. Okay. So then another thing that I did, and I am really in love with UFly. Okay, the University of Florida Literacy Institute and their hub. So I went on to their hub And they have on there a lesson plan for a kindergarten week, first grade week, second grade week, fourth grade week, up to fifth, I think. And this is, it's very much like how I think about it. What am I doing for phonemic awareness on the left? What am I doing to teach letters and sounds? What am I doing for writing? What am I doing for reading individual words, spelling individual words? How am I doing the high frequency words, the words that don't play fair? What am I doing today with connected text? So I know those are the elements. And you know, by golly, those elements aren't very different than what I came up with, are they? Right? And when I went to the first grade one, you know what? The elements were the same. So, and what they've done, which is really, 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 really wonderful, is let's say, let's look across at the phonemic awareness. So they have a different activity each day, but it's with the same length word, and it's doing different aspects of phonemic awareness. Okay. And they're teaching specific, this week they're teaching, you know, R control vowels and consonant digraphs. They're going to do it in different ways all week long. And they're going to do different reading exercises, and they're going to do different spelling exercises. So this kind of gives you a way of concretizing, making it touchable to organize. And of course, what we're going to be doing after we go through all this is you're going to do this stuff for your kids, imaginary class. Okay. So this is what I came up with for you to fill out when you're working in your groups today. So it is, what do I have to review this week or today? Because if I teach something on Monday, I better go over it on Tuesday, right? And Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. But what am I going to do for handwriting this week? What am I going to do for phonemic awareness? And I'm going to show you some of the way that I organize stuff. And so I literally took my Kilpatrick book, and I went through and I wrote down all the pages and what it was teaching, so that when I had to go and find, oh, I need to do blending on the complex one syllable, I know what page it is on and I don't have to go back through the index and everything every week when I'm doing my lesson plans. I'm going to show you that stuff. What am I going to ask my kids to read? What am I going to ask them to spell? I often will make a list of 10 words for 2 days or more. And the first day they read 10 and they spell a different 10. The next day I flip them. I don't have to do a new list. And then I might randomize them, or I might add more. But I try to minimize how much work I'm going to do. Okay. And then what fluency activity am I going to be doing? So this is my way of doing a week-long lesson plan.
Sasha,
Yes,
I have a question for you.
Please, Laura.
And I'm not a classroom teacher right now, but I don't know if this will be helpful, this question, if anyone else has it. I'm trying to get a little bit more involved with some smaller private schools. And so they ask me a lot of these questions. They're trying to find more ways to bring in structured literacy. So with this organizing sheet that you have here, doing week by or day by day, how would you do this if you had what you had mentioned before, say with different groups of kids? So you have a list of words, for instance. Are you talking about doing this for each group of kids with different lists of words, for instance?
It might be. It might
be.
So one of the things that I think the test of written spelling is going to afford us is to say, in my classroom, are there any kids who are somewhat alike in their skills? Can I group them in 3 cohorts in my classroom.
Mhm.
And I'm going to make certain times during the week that I do those individual groups. And then there's certain things that I want to teach everybody whole class.
Right.
And
Okay.
there's certain things that I might try to have some independent work with my students. And then so I can dance around and
Mhm.
work with individual kids. And
Okay.
the other thing that Laura, you should do, because you're in Portland, is you should get those those schools together and have me come up and do some training with you.
Oh,
And
I
that
would
would
like
be
that.
really fun, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh, I have
exactly.
I have a couple schools in mind right now. So
Cool. Let's
yeah.
make it happen.
Okay.
I think one of the things that this has done for me, guys, and it's really your fault. I've enjoyed this so much that I want to keep teaching teachers again. I mean, I really went away from it for quite a while, and it it's so enjoyable to see, you know, the questions and how you develop and how you blossom and how you add to it, and I just really enjoy it. Okay, so we have on goals. You had a handout. Um, on goals. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. So it says sample goals for course participants. Does everybody have that handout? When I was working in Los Angeles, at some point a family came to me and they happened to live in Topanga Canyon where I lived. And they said, our daughter has had brain cancer. And she could read at one time, but she can't anymore. And we can't afford anything because we've spent all our money on cancer treatment. Will you become a non-public agency so the school district will pay for her? And of course I said yes. And then I realized how much more vigilant I had to become and specific with the goals and keeping track of my students' performance on a regular basis. So these are the goals that we developed at the Kelter Center and that I'm sharing some with you. So in handwriting, I would say that one of my goals might be is my students will be able to name each letter of the alphabet in sequence and write each letter of the alphabet using accurate relative size, form, and spacing with 80% accuracy. That tells me exactly what I have to do, doesn't it? It tells me exactly the kinds of activities I have to do with those kids. Another goal for sound symbol or letter sound is given a list of single consonants, consonant digraphs, blends, and I might not put all of these. I might say single consonants and consonant digraphs, single vowels and digraphs. My students will be able to identify the letters, and given a letter, they can produce the sound with 80% accuracy. So I have to do all kinds of things where they see a letter and they tell me the sound. I say the sound, they can give me the letter. That's all kinds of activities that I can do. And again, I know that it's a lot of work to use the UFly website, but they have some great activities that you can use for all of this. I am going to have to spend countless days trying to figure out how to use that stuff, but they've done so much work for us. And you now have this list of goals. So you could go into the UFly website, or you can go into my book, or you can go into any resource that you have already and say, oh, I could use this to meet that goal. I could use that to meet that goal. And really start to organize. So you're thinking, oh, wait, I'm not just doing this activity, I'm doing it for a reason. when I'm working with phonemic awareness, my goal would be, am I working with one syllable? Am I starting with simple one syllable or complex? Have I moved up to the multi-syllable? And I want to know, am I going to focus on segmenting? Am I going to focus on blending? And my Kilpatrick test tells me that, doesn't it? Am I going to do the more sophisticated phonemic analysis skills? At what level, simple or complex or multi-syllable, with 80% or higher accuracy? You can tell that I'm always in the 80s and 90s. I want to have my kids read and spell words. Is it at the simple one syllable or complex? So what this does is it tells me, oh, Sasha, this is what you need to work on. And then find your resources to reach that goal. Is this making sense? And it's truthfully, that's what the,
A lot of sense.
okay, that's what the, thank you, Joanne, that's what the standards are supposed to do, but they don't spell it out so minutely, do they? And we're left to, oh, how do I operationalize this? It says, I want my kids to read on the 4th grade level. Thank you. What does that mean? I need to know these skills and where this child, where this group is, and then I know what to teach them.
Well, you can use these on an IEP.
Oh, yes, you could. I did
Yeah.
for years. Yes.
Yeah, the way you have them written. And if, you know, if you were a private organization that was doing something for a public school, they would have to, I would think, have something like this for an IEP or for a 504. Either way,
Yes.
they would have to have it.
And I was famously known for having too many goals. They'd say in IEPs, what do you have all those goals for? I said, because I want to be able to know what to have my teachers teach. Because if I don't have that in my mind, then where am I going? I'm just floating in the ether instead of saying, oh no, I have this amount of time. I do not want to waste 1 minute. I don't have enough time. So I better be working on this and this and this and this many times with this much review. That's how my thinking goes. Okay. Okay, let's see if I can go to the next slide successfully. Now, this is my favorite spot. It's all the curriculum materials. And I'm going to tell you a story because I want you to do it too. When I finished, I went to UCLA. I finished in the middle of the year because I'd spent a year in Israel. And so I finished in December, and I wasn't going to go to my my graduate work back east for 6 months, 9 months. And so I remember I applied to all of the school districts in the town where my parents lived and around. And I remember sitting in my parents' kitchen and taking a telephone call. And I was sitting on one of those chairs where you could climb up them. They had stairs, but you could also sit on them. And someone from the Garden Grove School District said, I have a class in which the teacher has gone catatonic. And they're 4th, 5th, and 6th grade boys. It's special ed. Do you want to take it? And I said, yes. And I hung up the phone and I started to cry because I didn't know what I was going to do. But what I did is what I've just been telling you. I said, where are these kids? And I didn't have, you know, this library in my brain of different resources. So what I did is I started going to the district and I asked every specialist at the district and every teacher in the school that I was working for to give me help and resources. And by golly, they did. And they really helped me. And so ask for help in your schools and for the specialists. There are people still, you know, even though we've taken a lot of funding away, there are people who at the district are supposed to help you in reading and mathematics and anything else. So use them and they will be happy to be of help. because that's their job and they like doing it. Okay. So I'm going to show you some of my craziness, but I want you, when we break out into groups in a very short time, to start saying, okay, what are my resources in handwriting? Like Deb said something and mentioned something that I know nothing about in handwriting. I want to know that program. And Lisa has given us incredible stuff on asking questions and review with your students. She just sent it this weekend. It was wonderful. And all of you have added stuff. We have to continue doing this and sharing resources and really looking at that. So I'm going to show you some of what I do, and then I want you to add to that list. My end all be all, the only thing I have in my repertoire for handwriting is stuff I got from Step Up, not Step Up, to Writing Without Tears, Handwriting Without Tears. And that's what I use. You know what I do for sound and letter, but I'm going to show you some more. And you know a lot of what I do in all of these areas, but I want to know what you do. Huh. Okay, so you want to say, what do I have already in my classroom? Okay, so let's go. How do I organize this? This is Kilpatrick's book. I have to figure out how he organizes. So he has different pages where he does deletion using simple one syllable, complex one syllable, and 2 syllable words, just deletion. And he has it with onset and rhyme, and he has it with the final sound. He has it with blends for the third consonant in an initial blend, for the first consonant in a final blend. So I just went through that book and I wrote it down and I put the page numbers. And I'm telling you, every time I'm doing a lesson plan, I go back to this page and I say, what did I do last week? And I keep a running record of what I've done, so I know that, and I don't repeat myself because I forget. But this is how I organize my resource. So that's that's a glimpse of what Kilpatrick does. Here is what he does with substitution. It makes it easier, doesn't it, than having this big book and where am I going? There's shifting, and there's rhymes and look-alike words and nonsense words and odd words. That's Kilpatrick's book. I also sent you, this is so wonderful, guys. It's Cook and Sarah Cusano. Are 2 ladies, I believe, who talked with David Kilpatrick and then created, how do I say this to my kids to start this? They have, and I think I posted it on our Facebook for you, the links, and Sarah sent it to you, but it is like their PowerPoint, and it must have 50 slides on how to do Kilpatrick. Use it, guys. Use it. It's really wonderful. Okay. Do you know that my kids know that when I'm working with them and I say, okay, it's time to do Kilpatrick, they know what I mean? They know it's their phonemic awareness. Yeah. And it's so helpful because it's so well organized and thought out, right? He's wonderful. Okay. So now I'm looking, oh, here it is. So Bloom's taxonomy applied to phonology. I sent you that that handout. And the way that Bloom thinks, and again, I hope that what you will do when you see Bloom's taxonomy on this particular handout is you're going to say, oh, that's what Sasha's been doing to me for 8 weeks, right? So in Bloom's taxonomy, he has 2 big, it makes a matrix. So down the left side, it's facts, concepts, procedures, and metacognition. Facts. Here are the facts. P and B are a consonant pair. There are, and a concept would be there are consonant pairs. And a procedure is, I'm going to put out one of the consonants. Can you find the other pair? Or I'm going to put out all the consonants that I've taught you. Can you sort them into pairs? That's a procedure. Metacognition is, so how well do you understand this? Can you explain it back to me? But what I did is I gave you about, I'd say, 10 to 20 ideas in each of those categories that you could use for those activities in your classroom. So one of them is, I'm going to say, teaching the consonants. What consonants am I going to teach this week? What vowels am I going to teach each week? I'm going to teach the concepts that there's two kinds of graphemes in English, that the consonants come in pairs or in groups, that quiet and noisy, those are all concepts that we've gone over. And the consonants are closed phonemes and the vowels are open phonemes. And every syllable has to have a vowel. So you could take this and say, okay, what do I teach first? What goes along with my kindergarten class in the scope and sequence and the standards for my school? But also, what do my kids know and not know? And you could pick and choose from these different exercises or ideas and say, oh, I want to use this on Monday. I want to use this on Tuesday. I want to use this on Wednesday. I want to use this Friday. Okay, do you see why I gave you this? And you are going to use it when you break into groups. And I'm going to come and visit the groups today. Okay, so that is resources. And I want to when you are in your breakout groups after we take a break, I'm going to want you to add to this. I made a questionnaire so you have specific things to work on in your groups. This is just another way when I want to be able to know what resource I'm using for my mapping book. We've talked about that book, or Mega Words, or Phonics A to Z, or the Angling books, or Fisher. So I went to each of those and I said, where do they teach the single consonants? And now I can go to those books, and in my lesson, I can find activities and words to read and words to spell and words for fluency, and I don't have to invent the wheel. In the mapping book, I can look at page 32, and it's got exhaustive lists of words with single vowels. Or I can go to the Angling. Angling for Words is like the oldest book that I own, or Phonics A to Z. And I know exactly where to go if I'm teaching that to this week. Okay. Any questions, any comments?
So just that, yeah, go ahead, Joanne.
This is kind of off topic, but as I'm looking at the lesson plan, and we can maybe go over it later on, I'm struggling with those irregular words. What kind of lists? Every year we get a list and they say, all right, do these. They call them red words. And I don't know where to go.
Okay, what I would say is just pick one list. It doesn't matter what list.
Okay, just work with those irregular words.
Work with those. And then also one of the things is, if you have your kids working in decodable books, there's going to be some words there. But the important thing about it is, how do I work with it? And this is
right. Well,
and you know all that. I don't have to say that. You know how to do that wonderful thing where we're using mapping. Except I saw it, it's an Australian group, and they take an irregular word like the word said, and they do the mapping. And so for the S that plays fair, for the D that plays fair, and it's the AI, which is the red part, right? And then what they do is they say, oh, what are other words that have this same pattern? Okay. And so you're analyzing it phonemically, not just memorizing it. And another, I'm going to there's another, and Laura will know this. It's Nancy Bell's visual spelling chart. But what she has the kids do is the same thing that I just said. What part doesn't play fair? And then you write the part that doesn't play fair in a different color. And you make some kind of memory hook. And then you say it differently. And you like I always say, February. That's what I mean, say it different, right? How would said sound if it were pronounced the way it's written? It would say Sade, and it's actually using two vowel friends, isn't it? And the reason that it's spelled that way is it's related etymologically to the word say, and AI and AY are two vowel friends. So it's logical. So you have to start saying with those words that are high frequency, irregular words, there has to be some sense here. How much sense can I make out of it? Does that help some, Joanne?
I just shared something from Really Great Reading and how they have videos for some words that would give some idea for a springboard.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. You see, everybody can contribute information because you all know good stuff.
I have the system that I use. I'll use a dot and jot, or I use a heart. I've got that part. It's just the choice of words. I've been sent so many different, each year they give us a different set of words, and I'm like, stop it. I don't want any more.
Don't make yourself crazy with that. Just pick this list and work through it. And then if you work through that and you got time, then pick another one randomly. Okay?
Right.
It
Okay.
doesn't matter. It's the process. Okay?
Right.
It's the process. And
Process, right.
okay, process. How am I
Thank you.
teaching my kids to think differently about these kind of words? Okay.
So Sasha, I want to say that you're like my hero with what you've done with what's on the screen here. This is something that I've wanted to do, but you've actually done it. So I think like, oh, I should do that. I should do that. But you've actually done it. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. So
Oh, thank you. And it's so funny because it took me a long time to do this, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. I have even today, because I'm starting with students already, I pulled out my little red notebook, and in the front of it, I have these pages of the stuff that you're seeing here. And then because I see my students, different kids on different days, I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and that in my book, you remember in the beginning where it has the list of the skills going from single consonants and single vowels, and then the digraphs, and it has like it's a grid, and it has 10 times where you could date in it. And so for every student, I fill out that grid every week. So when I go back the next week, I say, oh, I haven't done this for a long time. I better review this. And it really helps me because I cannot keep that in my mind. And how can anybody keep that in mind for a classroom, right? So having these like organizational supports, I want to say crutches, I couldn't teach without them, really helped me because I can't keep it all straight in my mind. Okay, so this is just more. We don't need to look at this. Then I wanted to remind you that in the time that we have worked together, I've given you lists of activities. And this was a whole bunch of multi-syllable activities. And again, you could say, okay, my goal is to be working with 2-syllable words, and I'm working on the Anglo-Saxon level. What kinds of activities this week could I do? Well, today I could do counting. Another day I can do dividing words into syllables. Another day I could identify the kinds of syllables. Another day I could say, oh, here's a root word. Can I do a division equation of my prefix and my root, or my root and my suffix? And then can I take a a root and add all kinds of different suffixes to it on another day. So it's like lists of activities to do. And that helps me fill out my weekly planner. And you have that from my book. You have that from your handouts this summer. You have that from UFly, and you probably already have it in your repertoire, right? Lesson planning takes as long as teaching. I put as much, right? It's a pain in the neck, but it's the only way to be ready and to not feel like a fool when your kids get there.
It takes a lot of time.
It
takes a lot of
does.
time, but for as far as my repertoire, since I'm so new to this,
Mhm.
I had to remember I'm coming off of the horrendous units of reading by Calkins. So I'm bringing this in. So my repertoire isn't that deep. So this is like gold to me right now.
Good.
To have, you know, these
Don't
kinds of ideas to go to.
That we still have our Facebook page where we can ask each other for help. We're going to meet, and we should maybe today make a decision about what day once a week we're going to meet. And I promise you, if you get crazy and you have a question, you just email me and you know I'll respond. Okay. And so will Deb and lots of people. Okay. Okay. We have to help each other. Heather, please.
Yeah, so I just wanted to let everybody know, because you guys, I'm not a teacher, I'm a parent. And so I've spent many hours taking all this information, that lovely information that Sasha has given us, and putting it into flashcards, because I need to study it deeper than you guys do. So I'm willing to share those. It's on Quizlet if anybody would like them, because it's already like, and it took me hours to do, and I know you guys are all busy doing your thing. So if anybody would like those, I'll put them up on the Facebook page as well.
Just do it, because we all need it. Okay.
It just is, it was easier just to like read the definitions over and over and all the rules over and over, rather than having to look them up in the book. So.
Good. I mean, whatever your process is, when you take, this is what we want to do with our kids. You can't just say something and expect they know it. They have to work with it in many different ways, and they have to analyze it, and they have to mess around with it, and they have to create their own framework, their own schema, or it doesn't make sense to them. So each of you have been creating a schema, and if you share it with other people, we've done this in class, you say, oh, that's how you think about that. And it helps everybody else, right? When I had my clinic in Los Angeles, we would have one person mentoring another person. I was always there, and then we would have like monthly get-togethers and share and help each other. Because many times teaching is a very lonely act, isn't it? And if we can create those communities of learning, both digitally, but also at your school, it helps. We can't all have the answers. Okay, let's go beyond this. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then the rest of the time until like 10, you're going to have half an hour in breakup rooms to work with this. Okay. And then at the end, and I'm going to come and visit you in your breakout rooms. I'm not going to sit around for half an hour. I'm going to come and talk to you in your breakout rooms. And I have I had a request. I was thinking maybe Laura and Irene and Joanne and Deb could be kind of leaders in a breakout room. But let's see, how many people do we have tonight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, wait, it moved on me.
Yeah, someone just left. I don't know.
Okay. We could have groups of 2 or 3 tonight. Is that okay with you guys? And hopefully Laura will be in one of those groups, and Irene.
You said with the words, sometimes they'll give you a list and you're not sure which ones to, I guess the sequence to teach them.
I mean, they've just, we use Orton Gillingham, so they were, you know.
Okay.
Well, I guess it's what I'm concerned about is, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Jackie, you can join in if you like, or, yeah, I don't want you to feel left out because everybody else is gone. Yeah, go ahead.
It's just that some of the words, I guess it was last year's list, I thought was for my second graders, the group of children I teach they're not labeled, it's a private school, so supposedly they're not special ed. They supposedly move at a different pace. I move at a much slower pace than the rest of the general ed class. And then my kids will push into their rooms for social studies and science. So I use the same words and I'll follow the same OG lessons that everybody else does, but I'll move at a slower pace. But I'm finding each year they're accepting children that are truly more special ed. Or this year I've got, out of my 8 children, I've got 6 who are dyslexic that are really having a rough time with all of this. So I want to make sure when I'm giving them these irregular words that they're irregular words that are going to be really meaningful. And I know I should stay with I try to stay with whatever concept I'm teaching. But this group is so low this year and don't have even the 15, some of them can't even, the 15, your my, thou, was, said, are, those are just gone. They don't have them. And that's where I've got to start with these red words this year. And these are second graders.
Oh, they don't have the basics, because I think on the site I sent you, they had a noun note that I use with my son. And what they've done is they've taken a list of the sight words, and instead of teaching them like we usually do in classes in random order, they've sorted all of them by sound. And one of the key things I really like about that, and I learned this because I have my kids signed up for the classes with Nora on Ebly. One of the first things she teaches all the kids in all her lessons is that there are different ways to make the same sound in words. So for example, for the long A, you can use EIGH. Sometimes you can use
right.
Can I jump in there? Can I jump into this conversation, Lisa? So I would love to see these lists, but I would be very, very careful with saying there's 5 ways to do the long E sound at the beginning.
She's breaking.
You can't hear me? So that's really contrary to what I was trying to teach you, which is teach one thing, get stable with it, and then get flexible. Don't teach all of it at once.
Sure. Okay? That's typically what I do. And I understand what you're saying, Lisa, but if you take, for instance, when I have a vowel valley on my wall, but I don't put up those sounds. The only sound they see up there right now is that might be the long A, if we're looking at that, or if I'm on the steps, I'm not going to move from that long A until I know they can recognize it. If it's A, E, then I'll stay on A, E. And then and then I'll go across the valley from that A, long A, I'll go across as I introduce each one of those patterns for them.
Sasha, I have a question about these words, like, whether or not they're the Dolch words or, whatever that list is. So is there also anything that is determined with the commonality of these words? So would that help in choosing and where to start with? Like how common do we use? Well, obviously the is like the first one, but.
That's a really good question that I'm going to have to think about. Because they're all labeled and in these different lists, high frequency words.
Right.
So by definition, those are the ones that you're going to see a lot.
Right. But some are clearly, right. But some are clearly more than others. And given the age of the student, there's some that you just can't avoid and things like that. whereas the other ones could probably just wait.
Right. And one of the things that happens is once you start teaching the spelling patterns, many of those words which we've considered high frequency irregular words somehow become regular because you understand what they're talking about. You understand the patterns. So Lisa, I'm really interested in you said that this person had lists based on grade levels, EBLI, is that correct?
No, it was the Phonics UK. They don't have it by grade levels, but by sound. I
Okay,
think Nora, what she meant to say, I think one of the things that she wanted to teach us was not the spelling patterns, but in the sense that you want kids to notice really early on that sometimes 2 letters can make one sound. Sometimes 3 letters can make one sound, and sometimes 4 letters can make one sound. And I think that's what I was trying to stress is for the kids so that they realize that the A
Right.
doesn't always make the A sound. The
Okay.
EI doesn't always make the EI sound.
So what I want you to see is, and this goes back to the work of Hannah et al. In the study, is what is the most frequent, most stable spelling of this sound. That's what I'm going to teach first.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to look and say, what's the next most frequent spelling of this word? And the book that is really helpful for this is the ABCs and All Their Tricks. And it tells you the relative frequency of each of those patterns. And when you look in, it's more detailed than my book, but the way that I organized my book is I said, oh, vowel plus E is a lot more popular than AIAY. So I'm going to teach vowel plus E first and stabilize that. And then I might talk with my students once they'd had, open vowel, open syllable, vowel plus E, 2 vowel friends. What are the possible ways to spell this vowel sound? And what are the probable ways? What's your percentages? What's your betting averages? But I don't teach those all at once. It's sequential and it builds up. So I stabilize on the most common pattern and then I get flexible and teach some more. Okay, does that make sense? So what I really want you guys to hear is, I don't care what program you use. I really don't, because all of them have good stuff in it, but use it for a reason. Understand the linguistics of reading and spelling. And that should tell you, oh, I want to do this activity, but I don't want to do that activity. Oh, I want to do this first, but not that, and that's second. That's the whole idea of what I'm trying to teach you guys. That there is an order and a logic to all of this. And that's what you want to then make judgments about in all of these wonderful materials. So the thing that Lisa was talking about, I want to see some of that stuff. Because I'm going to make my, my charts and I'm going to say, oh, I could use this for this and this for that and this for that. And I put it into my sequence because that's the sequence that I know is linguistically regular. Does that make sense, guys?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so this is what I imagined we were going to do. And you have to let me know that this is okay. I wanted you to go into breakout rooms and help each other and think about this and try to apply some of this and me stop talking. So in your groups, I sent you a handout. It says questions to answer in groups.
Mm-hmm.
And so here are the questions. What are my students' skills? How am I going to evaluate them? Are the learning records and testing available? Talk about this. What do you have in your school? What are the demands of your grade level? Do you have a scope and sequence? How can you help each other with all of this stuff? And you also have a blank, possible weekly planner that you might play with. And I wanted you to I would like to leave 10 minutes at the end of class for any questions, comments, and where do we go from here? So that leaves us now with 15 minutes in groups. Is that okay? Okay. We've got you all organized. Sarah's going to hit the magic button and you'll be in rooms. And I have asked Joanne, Irene, Deb, and Laura is going to be with 2 or 3 people in each group, and they're kind of the moderators, or saying, let's get back on task. So I'm going to say to you guys, let's help each other. Let's talk a lot. Your spouses should have to live with all of this because you're going to talk about it. And to know that we will get through it and that we will support each other, and it will be done, and it's not going to be perfect. And, you know, just know that and ask for help. That's the hardest part, I think, for me, is asking for help. And so we've got to do that. It's extraordinary times. That's why we all committed to these 8 weeks, because we knew that it was going to be hard. And so, you know, I applaud each one of you, and really, we will send out, oh, I wanted to ask everybody, you need to give me feedback of when you want to do the test of written spelling. You need to give me feedback about when we should meet. You know, should we pick a weekend, a Sunday time, or should we pick a weekday? Because you guys have much more on your plates than I do. But let's commit to that, and let's keep this going. And, you know, let's keep this community going. It's awesome. Okay.
So, like, wow, we've learned a lot. So, and good job, Sasha. Thank you for teaching. You just taught us so much. It's really amazing.
Good.
You're good at what you do. So thank you for doing it with us.
Thank you. And I do want to keep doing this. And so I need your help, and anything you can help me with suggestions in that process. I'm obviously a neophyte at getting the word out and, you know, making this happen. I will tell you that I'm doing the next phase of working with a real editor on the book. So that's going to happen. And there will be a real book, not just the one that you got in several editions. You've helped me with getting the cards done, and you know, it's really been a pleasure.
It sure has. I don't really know how I fell into this, Sasha, but I did, and I'm sure glad I did.
So there's in Yiddish, there's a word, it's called beschert. And what it means is that we are meant to have certain experiences in our life, and they do fall into our laps, you know? So we fell into each other's laps, and it's been lovely. Okay. So
Thank you, Sasha.
You are welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Sasha.
We'll continue.
Thank
Okay. Be well. Be well.